Fine. So we are ready with the basic setups from P2P site. Now we'll see the requisition PO and invoice creation. To create the requisition, go to navigator and go to procurement. Here is a task called as purchase requisitions. From home page also you can navigate to procurement. Here you can go to procurement. Whatever we could see within the navigator, all like you can see from here. Okay. This we call as springboard. Okay, these are all of the this home page. What you see, those we call as springboard icons. Procurement, purchase requisitions. Now go to more task. Say enter requisition line. Select enter requisition line. Here select item. The item what we created, it got struck with a different status. Item is not mandatory. Requisitions you can create with item or without item also. Requisition you may create for to purchase the goods or to record the expenses also. Now our item we are not able to access. It got stuck with the draft status. So here you can write item description. May write as a goods or some expense. If you select item, automatically it will default item description, item category, and a unit of measurement also. Since item we are not able to select, no issues. Here you can give category as a miscellaneous category and unit of measurement, how you measure the item, like each, price, say 1,000. Specify other parameters. This already negotiated with the supplier or negotiation is required. So those specifications you can give. Negotiation required not. It's already negotiated price and all with the supplier. And requester information. Who is going to raise this requisition? More than saying that who is rising, who is requesting the item. Who is requesting that item? Select that person. Mostly the person who is creating the requisition, the same person could be requester, or else requester could be someone else, and other person may create the requisition. If there is any urgency to get that item, you can set urgency as a yes. Okay. And deliver to location and all system is defaulting based on the requisition preferences which you have set. In the requisition preferences, we give a default deliver to location. The same system is defaulting, and system is taking the charge account. We discussed. So PO tab. The PO tab, we given these three accounts. So charge account for purchase requisition, and these three accounts again for purchase order. So charge account, whatever we given as per PO tab, system is deriving automatically. Quantity is 1, price is 1,000. Now add to cart. So before you submit this requisition for approval, we'll go and review the approval configuration, whatever we completed. This is instance like we are using for training practice purpose. So people may, there is a chance like somebody may go and change the approval rules, whatever we created for our purchase order and requisition. We'll go and check once. Approval. Approvals. You can search with the approvals term. Manage requisition approvals. See somebody changed. This is the one we selected. Now you change it. Disable. enable what we need. Check inside the rule whatever we created. It's available or any changes are done as it is. This is what we created. If equation B is equal to Alt INC US business unit, that should be approved automatically. Save and close, deploy. Done. And check approvals configuration for our purchase order also. Here also somebody changed. We configured with this stage. Enable it. And verify the rule whatever we created inside of that stage. This is the rule. It is there as this. No changes are done. Save and close. Deploy. Fine. Now, so we created a requisition line. You can add multiple lines also here. Okay, multiple lines and you can add to cart. Now click on the lines which are available in the cart. So one quantity only we entered. If you want to increase, you can increase. If you want to review the requisition information, click on review. Any changes you want to do, yes, you can do the changes related to quantity, or else you can remove, delete this line, and you can add, you can just, you can remove that. If you enter multiple lines, one line, if you want to remove, you can remove, or else if you want to do some changes to these details, price, etc., click on edit, or you can just duplicate this line into multiple lines. This is all you can do. So all the details you can just available here. You can review. If everything is fine, then you can submit for approval. If you click on manage approvals, system will display who is going to approve it. Before submitting, you can click on manage approval. It will display who is going to approve. Who is going to approve? System is going to approve. So directly you can click on submit. This requisition will be submitted for approval. Requisition number is going to be 3. Say OK. So by default, system will start requisition number, PO number from 1. That is a default number generation. But we have a separate task also where you can go and set the requisition PO starting numbers you can set. So that is also possible. But we don't need to look into all those points because this is not our area. So that let it be. Okay. Now click on manage requisitions. Our requisition number is 3. The below also you can see here. But anyway, filter it. So pending approval. Okay. It will take some time to update the status. I'm clicking on status called as pending approval. So action details are not available because the approval process is being prepared. Try again later. It will take some time. Okay. It will take some time. Then we can see the status as a approve.
Lakshman, if it is normal automatic approval and system is one, it should automatically approve immediately, right?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, automatically also, at least it need a breathing time, right? That's what happened. See, happened. Automatically approved. We are not doing some action in between. We are checking whether status is updated or not.
Okay.
Right? See, it's on the fly only. It is happening. It's not taking too much time. Right? See, the system also this requisition should be submitted and it has to go to the BPM related workflow, and which stage is enabled it has to check first, and which rule is available it has to check. Is there any specific rule for our business unit which is there in the requisition? It has to cross check, and again it has to look at whether amount rule or what kind of rule. This all system has to verify. To do this kind of check, at least minimum time is required. That is a time system is taking now. Okay. It's approved. Done. Now we can convert this requisition as a purchase order. To create the purchase order based on this requisition, go to purchase orders. The procurement, go to purchase orders. Go to task list. Here you could see requisition lines 1, requiring attention. Means one requisition line, nothing but requisition is available, which can be converted as a purchase order. Means which is already approved. Approved requisitions information you can see in this dashboard. Now go to task list, and here is the task. Process requisitions. Process requisitions nothing but convert requisition as a purchase order. Okay, convert requisition as a purchase order. That is the meaning of the task. Now click on process requisitions. Okay. Here is the requisition which is approved. Only approved requisitions you can see in this page. Select, click on add to document builder. Select supplier details. We are going to create the new order. Okay. The order style is purchase order. In the purchasing application, you can create the agreements also. Okay. You can create the agreements, complex purchase orders. Okay. So we are creating just purchase order. It's not a agreement and all. Say okay. Here you can see the details, document builder, all the details. Type is new order, style is purchase order, the supplier information. If you want to do any changes to this selected data, you can click on edit and do the required changes. If everything is fine, click on create. The system will convert this requisition information as a purchase order, and we have to submit for approval. So once it is approved, you will be able to create invoice in the tables application. Say okay. The purchase order number is 2. Okay. Now, so do you want to create invoice in the payables just based on the purchase order? Do you need receipt information also? That decision you have to take. The same we have to set at purchase order level itself. First, we'll create the invoice in the payables only based on the purchase order. We don't need receipt. Okay. So this purchase order 2 created based on the requisition number 3. So where you can set the control. So here we have fields. When you come to this page, by default, it may not show all these fields. If it is not showing the line level, you can go to view, columns, say show all. You select show all, it will display all the columns which are applicable at line level. Now, so here, all the details it is taking. Since we didn't give any item, it is taking destination type as expense. If you give item, it will take destination type as a inventory. Item we take into inventory. Since we didn't select any item, it is taking destination type as expense. Now, so matching. When we talk about matching, we have different matching, type of matches. Okay. The first one is a two-way matching. Three-way matching. Four-way matching. Two-way matching. Okay. In the two-way matching, so we create a two-way matching. Sorry. closed. Okay, in two-way matching, what we'll do is we create invoice based on the purchase order. Okay, we create invoice based on the purchase order. In case of two-way matching, we create invoice based on the purchase order. So there will be PO. Based on the PO, you create invoice in the payables. When you create invoice in the payables, you consider PO information which is available in our system and the invoice what you get from the supplier. Okay. So our PO and supplier invoice. Based on these two documents, we create invoice in our system. That is a two-way. Two-way means two documents we are cross-checking, our PO and supplier invoice. These two we cross-check. Finally, we create the invoice in the AP. So that is a two-way matching. So in case of three-way matching, we consider RPO and we look at the receipt or whatever we created in the system and the supplier invoice. Based on these three documents, we create invoice in our payables application that we call as three-way matching. Three documents we are cross-checking and we are creating invoice. In four-way matching, so we cross-check, we'll just verify the data with PO and receipt and inspection also. The inspection only we consider accepted quantity. The two-way matching, what we do? Our PO and the supplier invoice information. Say we got invoice from the supplier. Invoice amount is 10,000. When you look at our PO, we placed PO only for 8,000. Now finally we create invoice in the payables based on our PO information on whatever the amount supplier given as per supplier invoice, that is wrong. So we placed order for only 9. So accordingly we create invoice. In three-way matching, say you placed the PO for 10 quantity and or else we'll take this point. So you received invoice from the supplier for 10,000. You created PO for 10,000, but you received material only for 5,000. Now invoice we have to create only for 5,000. But supplier given invoice for 10,000. Our PO 10,000, supplier invoice 10,000, but how much we received? 5 only. Now invoice need to be created with the 5. So this is how we can have a control. When we are cross-checking, system will give the information. Yes, as per PO, this is the amount, this is the price, and this much quantity we received. It means invoice need to be created only for 5,000. Supplier given invoice for 10,000. Based on supplier invoice, we are not going to pay. We are checking our documents also. You take here case, we received invoice from supplier from 10,000. But if you look at the reality, PO amount is 10,000 and we received quantity 5 quantity which is equal to 5,000 and okay, and after receiving 5 quantity, what we did is we accepted only 2 quantity. Okay, we placed a purchase order for 10 quantity and we received only 5 quantity and we accepted 2 quantity. 2 quantity may be equal to 2,000. But invoice we received from supplier for 10,000. Now we have to create invoice in our payables only for 2,000. So this is how we have to cross check when we are going to make the payment to supplier. Before that, when you create invoice in the payables, we have to cross check with our internal documents along with the supplier invoice. That's how we create invoice in the payables. That process we call as matching. So two-way means we create invoice based on the purchase order. Three-way means we create invoice based on the PO and receipt. Four-way means we create invoice based on the PO, receipt and inspection related information, which is only accepted quantity. So this is what we have to understand. Now we want to do the two-way matching. Okay. Want to just do the two-way matching. Here you can set two-way matching. Two-way matching, we create invoice in the payables based on the purchase order. Select invoice match option as order. That's all. Set this. And you can go to schedule. The almost same information you can see. Here we have a limited columns. If you want to view all the columns, column says show all. Okay, here we can see all the columns. We'll create manual purchase order also so that we can understand that this is a copied one based on the requisition. Okay.
So
Say,
can we create a purchase order without requisition also?
yeah, we can. That's what I mentioned just now. Anyway, we will
Okay.
create purchase order manual process. Go to distributions. You can view the available columns. Yeah.
Lakshman, can we have two different approvers for requisition and PO?
Yeah, everything you can set. Multiple, just approval dimensions are different.
Okay.
Okay, you can set. Here, just see, purchasing is not our area,
Mm-hmm.
and approvals we cannot bypass. Its approvals are mandatory. Whatever
Yeah.
approvals are automatic or anything else. That is reason to pass that step. We created just auto approval. That's all. You can set. You can set. You may set for requisition
Yeah.
and purchase order different approvers, or it could be requisition or purchase order. It should goes to supervisor, or it has to go to bunch of the people. So one can approve. This is all you can
Oh,
set. Possible. All of
oh,
it. And here
thank you,
you
Lakshman.
can see the accounts. PO charge account, accrual account, PO variance accounts. Okay, these are the accounts we defined as a part of PO tab. Now system is using.
Okay.
Yeah, fine. So this is how you can create the purchase order and click on submit for approval. Okay, submit purchase order for approval. It will take a couple of minutes time, even auto approval, it takes time. PO number is 2. So just search for PO number under orders, go to manage orders. Our PO number is 2, search. Once the requisition is approved, we could see status as a approved. But in case of purchase order, if purchase order is approved, it will turn the status into open. When you see the purchase order status as open, it means that is approved and it is open to receive the material from the supplier as well as to create the invoice in the payables application. Open means it's a open to create the receipt as well as invoice in the respective applications. So in the Fusion Oracle is not displaying approved POs as approved. They display as a open. Open is equal to approved. It will take maybe 1 minute time to update the status. Let's wait. Let's check the status. Again, just click on search, which will work as a refresh. Now you see the status as open. Okay, the purchase order is approved You can create invoice against PO which is already approved. If PO is not approved, you cannot create invoice on the papers. So PO number is 2. Okay, amount is 1000. So say supplier given invoice for 2000. The supplier given invoice for 2000. Let's try to create invoice on the payables. Go to invoice work area. Create invoice. Okay. Select supplier. Sorry. We want to create invoice based on the PO, right? You don't need to enter the supplier details. Go to create invoice. And here is the PO number field. Identifying PO. Okay. So click on search. Enter PO number. PO number is 2. Supplier is alt. So here is the PO. Once you select PO, system will default to supplier name, supplier site, and BU information. So to alt, select this record and say OK. So based on the purchase order, it is taking the business unit, it is taking the supplier information. As per the purchase order, whatever the currency we have, the same currency it is taking as a invoice currency. You go to show more. The payment currency can be different. You can notice here. Invoice currency should be PO currency only. You cannot change. Notice that. PO currency only it will take as invoice currency. Payment currency can be different. Now supplier given invoice copy is with us. Okay. So invoice number is, this is invoice number. Invoice amount is 2000. Supplier given invoice for 2000. But anyway, we are going to cross check with our PO. Blindly, we are not going to pay as per supplier invoice. Now, when you create invoice based on the PO, these detail system will copy from PO to our invoice header. Along with that, we create the lines based on the PO information. Based on the PO information. So match invoice lines. Click on go. So here is the PO information. PO number 2. Okay. The quantity is only one. Order quantity is only one quantity. Now enable match. Invoice we received for how much quantity? Only one quantity. Enter one only. Say apply. Now this PO information, this is the PO information. PO information system will copy to invoice lines. Say okay. Lines created. Line we created based on the PO information, but header amount we entered as per the copy of invoice what we received from supplier. Now we'll submit this invoice for validation. Submit for validation. What system will identify the header amount is not matching with the line amount? Okay, header amount is 2000. This 2000 as per supplier invoice, this 1000 as per our PO. Now you will call to the supplier and you will speak to the supplier saying that how come you give an invoice for 2000? We place purchase order for only 1000, and that's how we'll discuss. The system won't allow to proceed. Now finally have to make it 1000. Now you can submit for validation. This is how we can establish the control in the invoice creation process. If you are not matching, if you are not creating invoice based on the PO, you have to rely on supplier invoice. Whatever the amount supplier is giving, you may pay. So always we have to cross check our internal documents and will pay. When you are cross checking, you may find variance, then you talk to the supplier and fix it. That's how you can proceed. Now, submit invoice for accounting. When you create manual invoice, the accounting entry is charge account is debit, liability account is credit. If not charge, you can call as expense account is debit, liability account is credit. But if you create invoice based on the purchase order, the accrual account would be debited and liability account is credited. Accrual account is nothing but the account whatever we given in the PO tab. PO level, whatever the account we have as a PO accrual account, that account system will copy to invoice. You see here, click on view accounting, accrual account. Accrual account is debit, liability account is credit. When you create the purchase order, system will use the accrual account. Accrual also equal to liability, not confirmed liability, temporary kind of liability, obligation kind of liability. So as per PO level, we have accrual account. That means if you are creating the PO, we are just posting that amount to liability only as per PO. So when that accruals will be reversed, whenever you create invoice. Whenever you create invoice, the accrual account will be debited. That means accrual account will be reversed. That amount will be moved to liability account. So this account we given in the PO level. From PO, this accrual account system is copying, and now liability account anyway it is taking from supplier side or common options. So this is the point you have to understand. The accounting point of view, that is the difference. If you create manual invoice, your distribution account, it will take as a charge account. Even that class name would be item expense. So the charge account is debit, liability is credit. When you create invoice based on the PO, accrual account is debit and liability account is credit. Okay. Accrual account
But
is debit
in
and
this
liability account is credit. Yeah,
in
please.
this case, the liability account, you have put the intercompany account also there, right?
Sorry.
In the liability account string, you can see that intercompany account comes in.
Yeah,
Instead
no
of
worries, no, that is not an issue when we are loading into the system defaulted. So for company, every segment value, what system did? First value it is defaulted, right? In the rapid
Mhm.
implementation load time. You remember?
But IC should
No,
always
one
be a
second, one second, one second. I'm explaining that only. Okay, it is taking first value. Okay, for company, what is the first value? 1,000. That is reason. So intercompany also company values only. It copied 1,000. Even you have a zeros, always it will follow the logic of company only. That is the reason it is copied. But it is not intercompany. Here 1,000, here 1,000, here 1,000, here 2,000 means that is intercompany. Okay. Here 1,000 doesn't make any difference. You no need to treat as intercompany. Balance your balance and segment value 1,000. Here also just 1,000 only. So you can change it when system is defaulting. You can change so that would be more promising. That's it. Okay. So this is the point we have to understand. Okay, this is the point you have to understand. The accrued account is debit, liability account is credit. Now we'll create invoice. We will create the purchase order through manual process, and we'll set. When you create invoice against the PO, receipt also mandatory, and we will set that match option as a receipt, and we'll create the receipt also, and we'll see how to create invoice based on the PO and receipt. So we no need to create the requisition. Requisition is not mandatory to create the purchase order. Let's see how to create the purchase order directly through manual process. Go to task list.
Lakshman,
Yep.
the PO which we have matched, how to close it, like close, final close will be there, right?
Yeah. So if you go to purchase order, it is closed for invoicing. Okay.
Yeah.
You go here, manage orders. It will be closed based on your document creation. Now it is closed for invoice. So then once you create the receipt against that, it will be 100% closed. PO number 2, search, you will see the status here. If you click on life cycle, okay,
Okay.
you also see, you can see closed for invoicing, not for receipt. You click on life cycle, you can see the complete information related to this PO. Okay, so no receipt is created. Okay. No receipt is created. Ideally, it has to show here invoice number. Yeah, here is invoice number. The invoice is created. No receipt is created. Okay. Once receipt is created, complete it will be closed. As of now, it is closed for only invoicing. Invoice only created. So once you create the receipt also against this PO, the status will turn into final closed. That's how you see.
Now, if you want to force close, like we can change the status, right, in
Yeah, you
EBS.
can select that and you can go to actions and you can take action as a close.
Oh,
Let's see how to create the manual PO. Okay, under orders, go to create order, provide the supplier information, remaining detail system is defaulting. So we are creating purchase order, the business unit information, supplier is Alt INC and default ship to location. So where supplier has to ship, this supplier has to ship the material to this location. And who's the buyer? The current user is the buyer because we converted Alt INC as a buyer also. So create. Now this is a PO header information and create the lines for the PO. The lines, click on add. Okay, line type, whether you are purchasing the goods or you are purchasing some services. Okay, you can select whatever, just on what base, just what purpose we are creating the purchase or maybe fixed price or etc or fixed price services, anything you can choose. And since the item what we created, it got some issue, we are not selecting, but still we can proceed. Say I'm writing here description, select category as a miscellaneous. So as a part of solution, like they'll have a different categories. Every item or the services what they are taking, they'll create all into different categories. Based on the category only, they derive the accounting. So quantity is one quantity, price is say 500, unit of measurement is each. Any value you can select. This can be defined by user from the inventory side. And here system is taking the inventory organization. And if you want to change, you can change also. If you want to receive this, you are creating this purchase order to receive the material into which inventory. And requested delivery date and do promised delivery date. Any one of the date we have to choose. Otherwise, we cannot create this purchase order. Okay, requested delivery date means which date we requested supplier to supply the material, or else supplier is promised on which date supplier is going to deliver the material. Any one of the date choose, that is okay. So by tomorrow, we requested supplier to supply by tomorrow. Scroll little right. And we want to go with the three-way matching. And invoice match option is receipt. When you select receipt, once you create the PO, if you try to create invoice based on this PO, system won't allow. It will say receipt is mandatory. That's how it will enforce the control in the transaction creation process. Okay, done. So these are the details and other information also. If you want to check, you can check, but you don't need to enter anything. You don't need to enter any details. This all account system will fetch whenever you save it. When you save this document, so it will derive the accounts based on the PO tab. See, it is deriving those accounts. Now submit this PO for approval. Yeah. It will take some time to update the status with the help of workflow. Manage orders. Our PO number is 3. Pending approval. So meantime, go to inventory to create the receipt against this PO. Go to navigator. We assigned inventory roles to this user. Inventory roles under procurement roles. Because of procurement roles, we are able to see these additional tasks. And because of inventory roles, what we assign to the user, so you will be able to access to supply chain execution. Expand supply chain execution. Click on inventory management. We are able to access to supply chain execution because of inventory roles. Now click on inventory management. So we want to create the receipt against that purchase order. Go to task panel. Select the drop down value called as receipts. Okay. Click on receive expected shipments. It means create receipt. Okay, receive expected shipments, nothing but create receipt. Click on the same task. First, PO should be approved. Then only you can receive the material against that PO. Otherwise, we cannot. Check PO status. It should turn into open. Yeah, open means approved. Our PO number is 3. So go to this page. Search with our PO number 3. So we are within the scope of our dollars inventory only. Click on search. So here is the PO record. We are going to convert it to receipt. Select that record and click on receive. Against this PO, we are receiving the material. Click on receive. So how much quantity we are receiving? We given quantity as 1 only. 1. We didn't select any item. If you select item, here destination type would be inventory and you have to select your sub inventory also. Since it is destination type is expense, since we didn't give item, it is treating as a destination type as expense. So no need to select any sub inventory in case of expense. If it is inventory item, you should select destination type as inventory. System will select automatically. You should select your sub inventory also here. Now just provide the quantity and say create receipt. And click on submit. The receipt number is 3. PO number is 3. Receipt number is 3. Say OK. Done. Now switch to payables to create the invoice. The PO number is 3. The PO level, when you give match option as a receipt, without receipt you cannot create invoice. PO number as well as receipt number both should be available. The supplier given invoice for 500 quantity. Here I will say just PO 3, receipt 3. Here, click on go. You can see purchase order number is 3, receipt number is 3. Ordered quantity is 1, received quantity also 1. Now system will allow us to create invoice with the maximum received quantity. Say your PO ordered quantity may be 10 and received quantity may be 1. Now max you can create invoice with the received quantity only. PO ordered quantity means PO quantity. PO quantity may be 10, but ultimately you are matching with the receipt. It will allow you to create invoice with the max received quantity. Received quantity is 1. Enable match. How much quantity for how much quantity you received invoice for one quantity. Yeah, 1 is matching with this one. It will accept. So you apply. Say okay. Now lines are created based on the PO and receipt. If you don't create receipt now, whenever you try to match, it won't allow. If you click on this icon, it won't show any details. Since receipt also available, that PO level match option is selected receipt, it is showing. Now submit for validation. So the header information, invoice number and invoice amount always we enter based on the invoice copy which you get from the supplier. And invoice lines always we create based on our PO and receipt information. The invoice details, supplier details with our line information should match. Then we'll create. If any mismatch, we'll talk to supplier, we'll fix it, then we'll proceed. So that is a process we follow. This is how you can create invoice based on the PO and receipt. Now my requirement is whenever we create invoice receipt in the inventory, automatically system should create invoice in the payables application. If you want to do that, what additional setups required? So that concept we call as pay on receipt. Pay on receipt means based on the receipt, you can pay to the supplier. How? Based on the receipt, you create invoice. For that invoice, you make the payment to supplier. Pay on receipt means we pay to the supplier based on the receipt. How to pay based on the receipt? Based on the receipt, we create invoice and we pay. The same concept, creating invoice based on the receipt, you can call as self-billing or you can call as ERS also. ERS stands for Evaluated Receipt Settlement. That is a system, one of the system source which Oracle uses to create invoice in the AP based on the receipt information. You can call with any name. In other words, you can call it as automatic invoice also, but we don't use that terminology. These are the naming conventions Oracle given. So you can call as pay and receipt, ERS, self billing, or automatic invoice also. What is meaning of these? We create invoice based on the receipt automatically in the payables. The moment you create the receipt in the inventory, that should trigger invoice creation process within the payables application. Based on the receipt, we are going to create invoice in the AP. Let's see what setups required. Only one set.
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
Is there any option to set the matching? I mean, we are doing it at PO level so is there any option to do it in configuration so that it holds good for all the PO?
We given right. We given in the configuration. Okay. So the configuration level already we given. The same is defaulting. When you go to PO, what it is taking? What do you remember? When you go to, when you are creating PO, what system is selecting?
3-way.
How it is selecting? We did the setup.
Okay.
We did the setup. That is the reason it is taking. Not receiving procurement. Configure procurement business functions. Alt INC. If you see here, match approval level is given as
3-way.
yeah. From here,
So,
within this BU, if you are creating any purchase order, system will default this. If you want to override, you override. Change.
okay.
That's all.
And sir, like this receipt, what we create, I mean, practically it is created after receiving the goods, right? So when we receive goods from the supplier,
When
based on that, we
when
create a
we receive
receipt.
the goods from the supplier, that we record in the system. What we do business, that we are replicating in the system to sync with reality. Yes.
So does it, I mean, is there any role of GRN here?
The GRN only. Receipt is nothing but GRN only.
Okay.
We create a receipt, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is GRN. Okay.
Okay.
The system, they are not displaying the name as GRN, goods receipt note. We use the
Mm-hmm.
task called as process awaiting lines, right? We discuss nothing
Yeah.
but a receipt. That is, receipt is nothing but GRN only. What we created GRN, we created PO, we created GRN, that we are calling as a receipt. Yeah.
Okay. So, sir, like if it's a service industry, then only it should be a two-way matching, right? Not three-way or four-way.
Correct.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yes. So
Then, like,
sometimes
how
service
do we allow
industry also
partial
you may go,
invoicing?
one second. Service industry also you may go with a three-way matching. So see, services also many companies they create as items within the inventory. Okay.
Okay.
They place the purchase order, but there should be realization, right? Whether the service received or not. If service is received, against the PO, they create the receipt also.
Okay. Okay.
So mostly service industries the two-way, but still there is an option where they can go to next level of to set a control. If service is received, they create receipt against how much, what service they received, etc. Against which PO service is received. So they'll record. They may do with a three-way also. That depends totally.
Okay. Okay. Sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Please.
Lakshman, how do we allow partial invoicing? Do we need to specify the condition anywhere, or?
Nothing. See, it's straightforward. It's very simple. See, you created PO with the 10 quantity. You received only 5 quantity. Now invoice what you create in the AP is partial invoice only. You create with 5 only. Or else you received 5. But supplier given invoice for only 2 quantity.
Okay.
So when you are matching, there is a field called as quantity, right? There you give 2 only. But system will allow up to how much?
10.
5.
So, up to 5. 5.
5. It will allow max 5. But you may create
Okay.
with, you may get 5 invoices, one quantity separately. You create 5 invoices. Every time you will be matching with that PO, that receipt. It will allow you to up to 5.
Oh, how about if it is for services or any expense account?
Any expense account?
Yeah. Let's say if we have ordered for 10,000 worth of services, and if the invoice is received only for 5,000, so it is straight forward that we can the invoice could be processed. We don't need to specify anything like partial invoicing or something.
But see, whatever it may be, it could be service or item. There should be some value which you provide as a quantity.
Oh, yep.
That only you will take as a measurement. Say you given only one quantity as per
Okay.
PO. Okay. Partial invoice you received. Based on that, you can give the quantity when you are creating invoice and all, maybe 0.5.
Okay.
Yeah. That's how you can split the quantity also as per the invoice amount and all.
Oh, so it means during matching the PO invoice with PO means the invoice amount should be equal to or less than the ordered amount.
Exactly.
Or the PO amount,
Invoice
right?
amount can be same as a receipt amount or less than receipt amount.
Yeah, but it cannot
If
be
you don't have
more.
receipt, the invoice quantity should be same or less than. It should not be more.
Okay.
Even receipt also. PO
Okay.
quantity 10, receipt quantity is 5. The invoice max you can create up to 5. Yeah.
Yep. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, if you've received more, in that case,
Sorry?
if you have received more,
Yeah, receive more means yes, you can create invoice accordingly because it will, if you have a PO and receipt, it will look at receipt amount, received quantity only.
okay, so if you have received 15, so we'll be able to create for 15.
Sorry?
If we have received 15 as a quantity, so we can
Yeah, you can
create.
create because
Okay.
it will have a control on the based on the receiving only you have to pay, right?
Yeah, right.
That's
Okay.
how. See, you place a purchase order for 10 quantity and you informed anyway, just you send 5 more also you inform. Supplier sent 5 more, total it became 15. Now you have to pay, like when you are paying, it is not based on your order. If you place the order for 10, you may receive 10 or more or less, generally maybe same or less, right? So always the control based on the received quantity. You have to pay as
Okay.
per received.
Okay.
Positive. Okay.
Lakshman, how do we match multiple POs in single invoice?
Sorry?
How do we match multiple POs in single invoice?
Multiple
POs.
So multiple POs, just you will be selecting one PO over there. When you are clicking on match, there you can change the PO number also.
Okay.
Okay. So, but make sure that those all are belongs to same supplier and same BU because header level system will copy that information, right?
Yeah.
So the line level you can just select and you can change. By default, it will copy whatever you have at header level. So line level, when you are matching, you can change the numbers and make sure that same supplier and the same site, everything is same.
Okay.
So you can
And
do. Or else
there
with
is
one PO, you can create multiple invoice also.
okay.
Suppose. Yeah.
And Lakshman, one
Yeah.
more option, like accounting we do at invoice level, right? When we have an option of override account, will it change at the PO level as well, charge account, if you change at invoice level?
So no. Because ideally, here we don't, if you are matching with the PO and all, if you are changing here, you are manipulating only, right? That we don't do in this kind of scenarios. If you are creating manual invoices and all, we will do here. Because
No.
there will be mismatch, right?
Yeah.
So
No,
that
the
we
reason why
don't.
I asked was if someone, the PO team is
No,
separate,
see,
invoice
certain
team is
things,
separate.
Oracle is setting in the rules as per system. Certain things you have to follow as a business rules. Instead of looking at whether it is possible or not in the system, is it advised to do in the system or not? We have business has to take the decision. So these kind of things we should not.
Actually, it results in reconciliation issue, Lakshman.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, the reason why I asked was, Lakshman, someone department level, somebody selected wrong account, and when we're doing the invoicing, we recognized, or by mistake they accounted, then they want to change it that time. That's where.
Then you have to go all this here. You may change and other side like the accruals will come to GL and there anyway you reverse. You have to go with some sort of adjustments. You have to handle with the manual entries.
It has to be corrected through a manual journal entry only.
Yes. Adjustments. That's what we call. Yeah.
Okay. Even if you do overwrite accounting at invoice level, it will not change at PO level.
PO level not. PO level not. PO level it will remain. The PO document level that account will remain as it is. Again, you think. So it always shows that is not reversed. PO level, what is accrual is there, that has to be debited in the invoice, then we'll treat as the accruals got reversed.
Okay.
Yeah. But here it will remain as it is.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sir, if we have accepted quantity, how is it going to impact this?
What is that?
Accepted quantity in the four-way matching.
Okay.
I mean,
Quantity
how
only
does
it will look at. Quantity only it will look at. Say your PO is 10 quantity.
Yeah.
Your receipt is 8 quantity. You placed order for 10, but you received only 8, maybe 10, whatever. Okay. You conducted inspection. Inspection you conducted and you accepted only 2 quantity. 6 you rejected.
Okay.
Now invoice you can create with max how much quantity?
2.
That's it.
So where do we record? I mean, this 2 thing, 2 and 6.
You will perform one more action called as inspection in the inventory.
Okay.
Separate action you will perform, inspection. And when you are creating the PO, in the PO level, you will give instead of 3-way matching, 4-way matching.
So in PU,
Match
we give
option
4-way
would be
matching.
receipt only.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm saying in PO, I mean, two changes. In PO, we will do four-way matching, and we'll have to create this separate this inspection
Correct.
thing.
Inspection, one more action you have to perform. There you have to accept a result. That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Two actions. One is PO level. Instead of three-way matching, you select four-way matching.
Right.
And once you create the receipt, one more action would be pending. That is inspection. That's all.
So we'll not be able to create invoice until this is done. I mean,
If it is a four-way matching, PO level,
yeah.
if it's that four-way matching,
Hmm.
with that PO,
Then
you cannot create invoice if inspection is not conducted.
okay.
You selected four-way matching, you created PO, you created receipt. Now you are in the AP, you are trying to take that PO, it will come in the header. When you try to click on match, it won't show information because inspection quantity is not available. It will look for
Okay.
the three quantities. If three are available, then only that information will be fetched line level.
Oh,
Yeah, otherwise you cannot see.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
fine. Okay. So what setups required to create invoice in the payables based on the receipt automatically? Okay. So supplier site level, you have to enable the pay and receipt. That's all. So what we will do is, if you take this topic, say enable pay and receipt at supplier site, then create invoice, create PO, create receipt, and run ESS job and review invoice in it. That's all. This is the process we have to follow. So for which is supplier site related POs, you want to create invoice automatically based on the event of receipt creation that we have to set. So once you create the PO, you create the receipt. After creating receipt, we have to submit one program, ESS job, Enterprise Scheduler Service job, which we submit from the schedule process page. You submit one program, that program will identify any receipts are available with a pay and receipt information. Those receipts it will convert as invoices, the information will be transferred to AP. We'll see the same. Now go to supplier. Supplier name is Alt INC. So Alt INC Corporation, Alt INC supplier 1 is inactivated on this date since we did the merge. Go to sites, click on edit, click on edit. Go to purchasing tab. It's all about procurement related. Go to purchasing tab. Under purchasing tab at site level, if you scroll little down, you could see pay and receipt. Enable pay and receipt. After enabling pay and receipt, invoice summary level. We want to summarize the invoice information. What level? Select pay site. Okay. Enable pay and receipt. Invoice summary level set to pay site. Now save and close. It means we are telling to the system, with this site, if any PO is created, with that PO, if receipt is created, that receipt is eligible to be converted as invoice automatically. That is a meaning. That is a message. Submit. Done. Now create invoice. Now create the purchase order with the same supplier site. Go to task list. So create order. select supplier, provide default ship to location, create. Okay, fine. Now you can notice here, pay and receipt checkbox is enabled here. It is defaulting from this site. The site level you enabled, pay and receipt. With this PO, if you create any receipt, that receipt can be converted as a invoice automatically. That is the meaning of it. Anyway, let's create first PO. Price I am giving 5,000. So any one of the date you have to provide. Otherwise, system won't allow you to save the purchase order also. Now tell me which one we have to select, two-way or three-way or four-way?
Two-way.
Three-way.
Three-way. It's pay and receipt.
Answer is nothing. We are not doing matching. It could be anything. Okay. Are we matching? Are we going to create invoice based on the matching? No, right? These are required when you enter the details from the AP to match. We are not matching. System is going to create invoice. It could be anything. Leave it. Save. And submit this PO for approval. We are not matching. We are creating receipt. System will create the invoice in AP. No matching here. PO4. Okay, it will update the status. Meantime, go to inventory to create the receipt. Under supply chain execution, go to inventory management, task list. So receipts. Okay. So receipts. Here under receipts, click on receive expected shipments. This is nothing but our GRN. If it's a four-way matching, here is the inspection receipts. Okay. You click on inspect receipt. There you specify how much is accepted quantity and rejected quantity. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Click on receive expected shipments to create the receipt. So hope our PO is updated with the status as approved. Nothing but open. Yes. Now this PO information you can fetch here. Click on receive. Quantity is one only. Now create receipt. Says submit. Receipt number 4. Now go to ESS job page, tools, schedule processes. You have to submit the program which will push this data from inventory to AP as an invoice information. Schedule new process. So send pay and receipt. There is one job or program or request, you can call with any name. Okay. Send pay and receipt. So it creates invoices automatically based on the receipt. Receipt transaction or receipt both are same. Receipt is one of the transactions in the system. Okay, system creates invoices automatically based on the receipt. When if the receipt is already created against the PO, which PO level pay and receipt checkbox is already enabled. Otherwise, no. Now say OK. And transaction source you select as ERS, evaluated receipt settlement. This is a source system will use to convert the receipts as a invoices. And receipt number and all you no need to select. Accept the parameters as it is. Just we are going to run it for one time. No other parameters we have to change. If you want to run this process for specific receipt, you can select. Let system run. If you want to select your receipt number 4, you can select. It will run for only that receipt. Otherwise, other receipts also it will submit. Now just click on submit, refresh. Now it will look for any receipt is available with ERS source. ERS means pay and receipt enabled PO based invoices. Just refresh. It will create invoice. That invoice it will transfer to payables application. You see here, it is we submitted send pay and receipt job and it is triggering import payables invoices. That means you can understand system is importing payable invoice into payables. So the receipt it converted as a invoice. Now it is importing into our payables. So always you just open this import payable invoice report, you can see sorry. So always open this report, you can see how many invoices are imported into payables based on the receipts. So this report, what it will do, even nothing is imported, it will update the status as succeeded. Means the report generated. Inside you can see the insights. So select this report, click on republish, click on gear icon, export PDF. There are many invoices, but those are not our invoices. Okay, they're created with advanced corp. Okay, with that also, payables open interface audit report. All audit report always shows which are created. That means these invoices are created, but not related to our supplier. If you select only our receipt, for our receipt only it will create. Otherwise, for all available receipts which are created against pay and receipt enabled POs, it will create. These all are created. Search for our supplier. Here is our supplier. For our supplier also created. Alt INC Corporation. So this is invoice number system created. Amount is 5,000. This is our invoice number. It starts with ERS, evaluated receipt settlement. So you are not getting invoice. Supplier may take some time to send invoice, but meantime you want to pay. Supplier may give invoice. On what base you pay? Based on what you received. If supplier is sending the fancy invoice with the 50,000, you are not going to pay. You will pay only 5,000 because you received quantity accordingly. 5,000 worth of the quantity only. Always we pay as based on what we receive. So that is the reason. So there could be delay in supplier invoice, but still you can generate invoice self billing. You are creating invoice, you are billing yourself. Okay, you can create invoice before you get invoice from the supplier and you can pay. For this, we can use pay and receipt. Now we'll see the invoice. Just refresh this page. So many invoices imported. See now total 29. Click on this total. Our invoice is here. Alt INC Corporation. So this is our invoice. Your description also you can see. The receipt invoice so and so has created on so and so date. So if you get original, when you get original invoice from supplier, you may update. You can change anytime. Okay, you created. Meantime, you got invoice from supplier. This is supplier invoice number. You update. Okay. So this is how system creates. Validate. Follow the rest of process. Based on the due date, you can process the payment. Just save and close. That's how we can create invoice based on the receipt, which we call as pay and receipt or ERS invoice. You can call as ERS invoice or self-billing. All are same. ERS invoice means say pay and receipt invoice only. Or you can call as automatic invoice. How to create invoice automatically in the payables? Yes, you can create invoice in the payables automatically based on the receipt information which you record in the inventory. With the concept called as pay and. Simply how to create auto invoice in AP by using the pay and receipt concept. You can create invoice in AP automatically. So these are the points we have to understand, okay, related to P2P cycle. And another note. So here in the inventory side, if you go on to perform the returns, it will create the debit memo in the payables automatically. That in some instances it is not working. That is the reason I'm not demonstrating, but just I'm trying to give you some insight.
Lakshman, one question on pay on receipt.
Yeah.
So what is the meaning of that option that we selected, invoice summary level as pay side?
Invoice summary level, like the invoice what you are going to create, okay, the invoice pay site we given, the site wise it will create the invoice and the payables grouping. That is a grouping factor.
Like if the supplier site is enabled for payment, in that way we could understand.
Yes, pay site only. Always we have to create invoice with the pay site. We are telling to the system you use the pay site, accordingly you create, not based on like you may have other purchasing sites also different, right? Okay, based on the pay site, create invoice we are telling to the system. Ideally, that only we use. We don't play with other values.
Okay.
Always we use the pay site. The pay site only we have to create invoice in the payables automatically when you have a receipts and all.
Okay.
Okay. And if you want to return, you are doing the purchase returns, you'll go to return receipts. Which receipt related quantity you want to return? Fourth receipt number 4, you search and find, select it, click on return. How much quantity you want to return? One quantity you want to return. And click on submit. The return transaction was created. Done. Now it will create with one quantity debit memo in the payables. Okay, debit memo in the payables application. Go to invoices. We'll create debit memo. We'll create the debit.
On that return record, debit memo checkbox was disabled.
Sorry?
On that return record, that debit memo checkbox was disabled.
Okay,
Probably
fine.
yeah.
The supplier level, we have to enable that checkbox.
Yeah.
It will work. Okay. So go to supplier. Just give me 1 minute. I'll come back. 1 minute, please. Okay, supplier level enable and will proceed. Just give me 1 minute, I'll be back. Okay, we'll just, if you want to return, like we did return, just now we did return, but it won't create debit memo automatically. There you do the return and here you create the invoice through manual process. Debit memo you create through manual process. If you want to auto generate, that we have to enable. Go to supplier. Go to purchasing tab. Here is the checkbox. Okay, create debit memo from return. Enable it. It will auto create. If you don't enable, you perform the purchase return and go to AP and enter manual debit memo. If you enable it, based on the action of return, it will create a debit memo automatically in the payables application. Now go to inventory. Return receipts. You have receipt 3 also, right? Return. Here this debit memo is enabled because that is defaulting from the supplier side. Automatically, if this checkbox is enabled, still you can disable it. So you want to perform the return and you want to enter manual debit memo in the payables. In that case, we may disable it. If it is enabled, it will create. Submit. Now it will trigger the process of debit memo creation. And you will be able to see the debit memo with one quantity. Switch to payables. Here is the debit memo. Receipt number 3. So minus 500. Alt INC Corporation. So generated automatically by return to supplier transaction. Debit memo created. So now when you are making the payment, this amount will be reduced and will pay to the supplier. So
Sir, how
it's
did
all
the system
about P2P cycle. Yeah.
how did the system put the number, debit memo number?
Auto generation.
Okay. Okay.
You can change it if you want to change because this is our initiative, right? Number can be anything.
Mm-hmm.
We are not getting from supplier to follow that reference number. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want
Okay.
to change, you can change. Now we have option also.
Okay. Okay.
So that's all about P2P. In the tomorrow session, we'll kick off with the receivables. Okay.
Lakshman, are we
Yeah.
going to touch about the calculating tax in the payables?
We'll see that later. I just mentioned, right? The tax calculation, we'll do the tax configuration, expense, etc. later. First, we'll complete these core applications. Yeah. We'll see that. We will configure the tax and we'll calculate the tax in payables.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, fine. Done. Okay, we'll connect tomorrow, same time, and we'll pick receivables.